K-Sig. K-Sig, Kirkland, Signature, Performance Plus, V3.
What do I need to know?
Version
What do I need
3.
to know?
Ball Lab coming Friday. I think it's what you should expect for the money.
What you should expect for the money. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, people out there in the equipment sphere, buckle up, put on your seatbelts, because we got a lot of equipment to go through. How you living, everybody? It's NoPuttsGiven.
How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? America's team. That's America's team. America is. I said they should have been called the Ack Prescott, because there was no D in Dallas yesterday. That was just a wonderful thing to watch for those of us who don't like Dallas. But
it was a good day. Like, I watched Real Madrid absolutely throttle Barcelona earlier in the day, and then the Cowboys football defense. I don't know where they were.
They didn't show up. They were not involved. They didn't get the memo that the playoffs were starting. But Grayson Murray got the memo. He won the Sony Open in a 3-way playoff, drained a bomb, 39 feet, something like that. Took a peek in his bag. Again, we don't get into what's in the bag stuff a ton, but this puts Mizuno on the board. For Mizuno, this is a big deal, not because he's playing Mizuno irons. Everybody, and their mom knows it. Mizuno makes fantastic irons, but it was an STX 230 driver. Number 1, strokes gained off the tee.
By more than a little, I believe.
By more than a little. And Mizuno T24 wedges. I think that's also kind of a big deal, because how many times have we heard, like, oh, yeah, if Mizuno's irons are so great, how come the wedges don't get necessarily the same love that their irons get? Well, he killed it. Sand Sage, he's like 100% on the last day. That was pretty cool.
If you Fairway can do that,
Woods.
That's all right.
Fairway Woods, Tony, you and Grayson have something in common.
I do see a triple diamond 7-wood in there. Love it.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, in what is becoming almost a weekly event, it feels like, on this show, let's hear it for Lab Golf Putters.
I mean, you look at the he didn't have like the best ever week putting, but boy, when he did drain a clutch one there, didn't he?
Hey, he did, and I'm just saying, how many putter companies that started out once upon a time, it was a fantasy land for them to say, get in the bag of a PGA Tour player, let alone win on tour, let alone win multiple times on tour. It is a train, it's a locomotive, and it ain't slowing down in 2024. I think it just is picking up.
And I think maybe we notice it more because they are smaller brands that you don't expect to see. Like, if somebody wins with an Odyssey putter, unless it's sort of like what we saw last year with like the Jailbird sort of randomness, where all of a sudden, hey, we haven't seen this particular putter before. But like when Odyssey wins, you almost don't notice, because there are just so many of them in play. Scotty wins, you don't notice necessarily. It's not to take any credit away from him, but by any means. But when a small company wins, whether it's a Lab, Even Roll has some wins over the years, right? It definitely catches your attention more, if only because we know, right? We've heard the stories of how difficult it is for a small brand to break through, because brands like Odyssey and brands like Scotty Cameron have such a stranglehold on the tour, right? And the politics that go into what makes it in a bag, right, behind the scenes. So anytime, whether, like I said, Lab, Even Roll, anytime you see like a small company win with almost anything, it catches your attention for sure.
Absolutely does. So more to come there, but I mean, just phenomenal. I was looking at a couple questions on the interwebs, specifically on the Twitter /
terrible
X.
Place.
Yeah, it can be. But can't anywhere be a terrible place. Anyway, one person asked a question. There was a post where it said, "Hey, Tony, Chris, we need what's in the bag for you fellas this year." So I said, okay, maybe we can do that. But very, very briefly, Tony, what is your process going to look like for you? Like maybe just take me through like what are you looking for out of each slot in your bag, or maybe 4 or 5 different slots. How are you going to go through this evaluation process?
Yeah, so I think I'm probably gonna stick with T300 in the irons, right? I've
350.
yeah, those that one's
Okay.
yeah, whatever I have. Again, it's not good with the numbers these days.
Okay.
Yeah, like I that's a spot where iron play has never been the strength of my game, and it's been better than ever with 350, and so there's not as much temptation there. Wedges, there's some stuff coming that I'll want to look at, some stuff that's intriguing, but by and large, I've become a little bit of a creature of habit with Vokey. So we know,
Hmm.
right? We can say SM10. They're out on tour. We're allowed to. Can't give you any details, but we can say those words.
We can say the words.
Become
They're
kind of
out
a
on tour. They're
yeah,
yeah.
tour is fair game.
They'll be
Um,
indeed.
so become a
Indeed.
little bit of a creature of habit with that, and not for anything, right? The fact that we're able to every 2 years go out there and get that wedge fitting and understanding how important that is.
It's huge.
That's tough. So
Huge.
where the volatility in my bag, always the driver. Like never ever a year where I'm not looking at drivers. I've been. I love the TSR stuff. Could find its way back in the bag, but as you know, I'm really excited about Paradigm, particularly. Excuse me, Paradigm AI Smoke, particularly Triple Diamond. Um, Dark Speed, which we can finally talk about and will in a little bit. Dark Speed is,
Yeah, in
I
about
think
two and a
I
half
think
minutes
there's
here, we're going to talk about
yeah
Dark
I
Speed.
think that I think there's something special baked into Dark Speed, so that's in the running. And then if things go south for me, as they invariably do, like
When
that's when
things
maybe like
no,
maybe I just need more Ks. Like, do I need to get all the way up to 10 Ks and there? Like I think Ping has traditionally been the straightest brand in golf anyway, and now
hmm
what we experience with 10K when we're out with Ping and the G430 Max 10K. That's another one where I'm
hmm
like it can be a lot to look at.
hmm
And I wouldn't say it's the best sounding driver in the Ping lineup, but it's not terrible. And just like, hey, if them white stakes have been creeping in on you a little bit, like let's grab something. If I need to push them
I
out,
mean,
that'll be the approach. So,
I
and
think
then
like at your home course at McGregor, man, if you could step up on number 2 and not worry about it
yeah,
and be like,
yeah.
okay, that would
And
that
that
would
whole like
be
you'd worry about that if you hit a 9 iron off the tee. Like
that's
it's
what I'm
just
saying. It feels
it's
like you're kind of trying to thread a needle, but you can't hit iron. You need to hit something with some distance to it.
and
And
I would have told you, yeah, I mean for sure. And 3 woods and any of the woods, right? Again, I love my TSR 3, my strong 3. That's tough to
mhm,
beat, but I'd be willing to take a look at something. And the 7 wood, like the 7 wood is just a fantastic tool, period, regardless of what brand. But if I could find one that's better than what I have, I'd think about that too. So
what about putter? What's your because you're a you're an interesting guy in the sense that throughout your bag you tend to be a better putter than maybe some other places in your bag, but you're not necessarily like a putter guy. Like that's
yeah,
not
no, it's
necessarily a
just
thing that
like
you.
yeah, here it is. And I couldn't. Is it? I always struggle with the PXG names, but is it a blackjack I have? I don't know. Whatever
I think so.
PXG's spider clone. That one has been in the bag. It's stuck. I'm happy with it. I putt well with it. Obviously, we've got the Callaway AI stuff. AI one putt
That's right.
smarter.
You were at that launch. Yeah. Yep.
So that may take a look, but that's one where it's sort of like, it's not broke. It was
hmm
dialed in. I was fit for the Callaway too, but fit for the PXG. It's not broke. No need to fix it. So
hmm
that's one I may not even, like something really has to blow my mind on the putting front.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me it's a similar, a little bit of a similar process in the sense that I'll kind of start in the middle and work out. I love again kind of let's call it the T100 T150 class of irons, kind of from like 5 iron up, like from 5 to wedge is kind of that's also once I get a chance like the Mizuno like 243s, again kind of your quintessential players cavity back iron in there, excited to look at that and wouldn't hate looking at or just testing something else in that space. We're going to talk about Wilson in a minute. Their CBs look, if you didn't have a Wilson logo on it, there's a couple 3-4 brands people would absolutely guess it is, and they'd be wrong, and they might even be disappointed when they go, "Oh God, that's Wilson." Like, yeah,
Yeah, you take the logo off and you're like, who made this?
I want those.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you get there, wedges, a little bit of a creature of habit, like you said. For me, the biggest thing, again, back to the wedges, it's fitting. It's getting fit for the wedges and knowing what they do and why, and the level to which you and I have both been fit. I can't say I'm better fit for something in my bag than wedges. Like I don't have more confidence in any part of my bag in terms of what I'm fit for than that in going through that process with them. So,
Yeah, because unless you're one of the guys, like, all right, it happens, right? You get chip yips or a little dicey around the green, but I mean, it's not going to blow anybody's mind to hear me say that if a club is shorter in length, it's easier to be more consistent with. So you have a club that you can swing consistently, as I can with a half wedge shot.
Robotic.
So like when you have something that lends itself to consistency anyway, and then you are dialed in at a level that probably is goes above and beyond anything else in your bag. When you start talking about, you don't have to worry about the grind with a driver, for example. It's
boy, let's hope not.
And so when you can get properly fit for a wedge or 3 wedges, 4 wedges, whatever it happens to be, that the impact of that is massive, I think. So get fit.
And the rest, the rest of the bag very quickly. My tweener spot is that 7-wood 4 hybrid driving iron place. That's one that I'll swap out depending on where I'm playing and what's going on. But I want to experiment more with the 7-wood for sure. I'm
going to go the other way. Like, I want to find a driving iron that I can use on windy days. Utility.
We'll have a discussion about that. And then, the fairway wood space, I've gotten best performance thus far in the last couple of years, Cobra and TaylorMade in different constellations. I love the adjustability of last year's like Stealth 2 Plus, obviously with QI Tour, right? The Plus became the Tour in our lexicon, and then if you go over to the Cobra side, like I said, we'll get to dark speed. There's nothing about any of the dark speed fairway woods that I look at and go, yeah, I couldn't play that. If anything, again, it's a little bit of the Wilson effect where the way that they look and feel and perform, people go, oh my gosh, that had a TaylorMade logo on it. That had a Titleist logo on it. Maybe, crazy good.
Paying attention.
Crazy good. And then I really like what we talked about last week in terms of driver analysis is I want to take the 3 or 4, get it to the ones that I hit. Say, okay, we get 3 or 4 ball speeds are within 1 to 2 miles an hour. Which one do I hit the straightest?
Gotta narrow it down to that top 7 or 8 and then go from there, right? That's how we do.
Exactly. And for me, invariably, that's going to be kind of the LS or the lower spin model. So it's, it's probably going to be, like I said, triple diamond, QI10, LS, dark speed, LS, obviously, kind of stick within those. I've hit, Ping's LST, so I have that as a reference point.
It's the highest spinning of the low spinning lines.
It's the highest spinning of the low spinning drivers. Yeah, so go from there. And then on the putter side, very quickly, I love Link. I love Lamp. I love Lab. I want it. Yeah, I'm really.
I'm still like the only guy who hasn't tried one.
I know you are. I want to dabble with some of the new models they have coming out, and so.
Ooh, teaser! I didn't even know, but I'm not. Well, you said when it comes to putters, I'm the most. Whatever.
Yeah. Which sometimes. So
it's supposed to excite me. It doesn't.
But we will do. I think we should do an official starting lineup. What's both of we kind of start playing around the same time in terms of home course, depending on temperature and stuff. So maybe that early to mid March time.
Over under for me is always the Masters. Like that's
kind of first part of April.
Yeah.
So but maybe we'll look at something in there. That'll be fun. Hey, quick announcement. We have an official on-course data partner for 2024. ShotScope. And you just said so good. Why? What gets you excited about that?
I just we are going to be sharing lots of insights collected from real golfers on course. So you'll see feature articles on the website, inclusions in the newsletter, just little nuggets of wisdom gleaned from ShotScope data that will maybe get you to think differently or maybe confirm some of the things you're already doing on the course. So yeah, a lot of good things coming with that. I'm super excited to have them on board.
Yeah, I love it. And in talking with the team over there, and we see things the same way.
Plus, they're Scottish, so they're so much fun to talk to.
Number one, phenomenal to have phone calls with them. I want to get like books on tape, by the ShotScope team. I think that'd be phenomenal. But the thing that I really like about what they're doing too is it's all about actionable data too. Like they have a lot of data. We know all this, and that's awesome. But they're really invested in, okay, how do we actually take this and give it to consumers in a way that might actually help them or
golf smarter.
Golf smarter. And I know there are other companies out there doing that as well. I'm not saying that there aren't, but I feel like ShotScope is like hell bent on making data accessible and actionable for like real everyday golfers. And I think that really resonates with kind of who we are and what we do too as well. So rock on, pay attention, people. It's coming out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 312 releases, if I count quickly here, Tony, between...
That's roughly accurate, yes.
Between last week and this week. Programming note, people. We're not going to give you every single detail and every single release. You'll have to go to the website for that.
We should have a special, after we get through PGA Show, have John Barba come in for a special edition where he steps us through what he thinks is really cool in the 700 roughly articles that he contributed.
I think that'd be great because, as you guys know or may not know, Mr. Barba, one of our resident experts and passion, he loves the Cleveland, Zexio, Wilson.
Well, he's in the Zexio demographic, so
he's in the Zexio demographic, and he knows those.
And not just recently either. Like he's a long-time Zexio demographic guy.
But you can't be an expert in everything, and he does love himself. But he knows that stuff. So we may not go as deep into those right now today, but let's start at the top, Tony. As we said, we can now finally talk about
Dark Speed.
So let's talk drivers. Let's start where everybody wants us to start, which is the driver. So start us off. What do we got?
We got three models, except when we've got 4 models.
Oh,
because there's some weirdness in there. But yeah, so we've got a low spinning Dark Speed LS. We've got a low to mid-ish spinning Dark Speed X. And then we've got Dark Speed Max, your forgiveness and or draw biased model, depending on how you want to configure the weights. Okay. So a little bit of everything in the Ripple here. And this is super weird, kind of distinctively Cobra, and we'll talk about the why behind this in a bit. But the 8-degree LS has a different shape. They're calling it extreme arrow shaping, so a little bit different shape than the 9 and 10.5-degree LS models, which also have, I guess, what's just like one notch down from extreme. Like that's whatever that is. That's the aerodynamic.
It is a pronounced aerodynamic package as opposed to an extreme aerodynamic package. Maybe, I don't know. Here's the 9. So this is the 9-degree. I may end up in the 8. That's one I really want to compare to the others.
Yeah,
but
it's oh man, yeah. The
so
8
compare. So what is the 8 like? If this is the 9, what does the 8 do?
So really, like, what's noticeable? The thing you'll notice is in those heel and toe sections of the face, that crown is going to swoop down even more aggressively.
So yeah, so kind of dropping. Yeah,
so that crown is going to be almost more domed with an aggressive sweep into the heel and toes, if you will. and the
Okay.
other thing front to back, which is going to be a hard angle for you to get
Yep,
in
it
the
is.
crownish region there. Yeah, good luck.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
failed. The
Miserably.
the 8 degree is going to be a little bit longer. I'd say more of a bullet shape. Some people have said triangle. I like bullet better than triangle, if for no other reason than triangle. Boy,
Harkens up
calls up.
images of
Oh,
917s and things.
yeah, it's a hard look.
No,
So
it's
yeah,
yeah.
really designed to be fast, and they're talking about Kyle Berkshire and the kind of speed he gains. There's another one who they affectionately refer to as Player B. If you can maybe decipher the code and figure out who we're talking about here, but those guys, and again, you're talking upwards of 130 mile an hour swing speed. Those guys are seeing 3+ mile an hour gains just over the shape of the head, which is
Right.
that is massive. I mean, those are big gains. And so while I wouldn't expect me or Chris, guys that run 105, 110, depending on where we are in the day and the season and things like that, I don't think we're going to see 4-ish miles an hour per se, but
Could see one.
we saw speed with Aerojet, particularly LS last year. Like I
Mm-hmm.
could not swing any other club I tried as fast as I could swing Aerojet. And so you can talk about USGA limits and CT and all of this stuff. I don't care. Like you give me more
Right.
speed, I'm gonna generate more speed coming off. It's gonna go farther. And so if you are in the wheelhouse where the aerodynamic shaping of the LS benefits you, you're going to see
Mm-hmm.
speed. Even the X is probably more aerodynamically efficient than most of what's out there, and
Yeah.
it's kind of the middle one for Cobra. The X is really kind of a mid, maybe low mid. It's definitely not what I would call low
It's not mid to
mid
high
spin.
spinning at
Yeah,
all.
it's
No.
it's definitely on the lower end of the mid range. And then obviously the max is built for forgiveness, and so that's a
Would I
case
be
of
correct in saying that like you said, the most extreme aerodynamic, obviously said, is the 8 degree, only the 8 degree model. There is the 9 degree model. Would I be correct in stating that the 9 degree model is more aerodynamically efficient than last year's LS?
yes, yeah,
So
and that I
even
mean these are
if
yeah, this is not rehashing, right? This is
right, so
pushing aerodynamics, and we can't say for sure who has the best aerodynamics in golf, and we talk about this. It's probably in terms of performance stories, maybe the least interesting, the least sexy, if you will. But I mean,
mhm,
we talk to other people in the industry, and Cobra comes up as the guys who are maybe just a little bit ahead of the aerodynamic curve, and so.
yeah,
We talked about Cobra not getting credit for being innovative, pushing limits, things like that. But I think in this discussion, they are at the forefront. And the other
mhm,
thing worth a mention before we jump into the fairway woods with the LS model, and I think this is really important, significant. They've brought the 3-weight system back, and so that allows you to put a little bit more forgiveness into an LS, or if the LS as configured at the factory, if you will, spins a little too low for you, you can drop that heavy weight in the back, gain a little bit of loft, add a little spin. Maybe not going to be that as piercing, but it adds some playability to the LS that they took out of it the last couple of revisions. So I mean
mhm.
I'm excited to see that back. I'm probably an X guy, but that LS in the back option, knowing that, hey, if I can get this into playable for me, gain a little bit of speed through the aerodynamics, that's a win-win. So, yeah, I'm excited.
That's the one I'm really interested in. The driver space for them is it kind of becomes an LS and a half if you put that heavy weight in the back. We saw this last year, or when TSR came out with titles. I know we're talking about Cobra, but you know the TSR 4 or the
How about, can we
TSI
call it the
4.
LSU? Because that's kind of halfway between S and X,
Yeah, we have to figure out
or
what
the
letters
LU.
exactly
I don't
have.
know. Anyway,
What letter?
working too hard on this.
We'll figure it out. But point being, the TSR 4 with the heavy weight in the back was kind of a tour configuration they went with. That was kind of a TSR 3.5. It was enough of a bump in forgiveness, and right, we're going to see that on the fairway woods as well. They said the three
There you
weight
go.
configuration,
It looks
so
so
you can kind
good.
of see you got heel, toe, and then rear. So same type of options. What you won't see with Cobra though is any type of sliding type weights. We see that, really, like I said, more so with TaylorMade and some of those. But between the three
Flip
different
weights.
weight ports, flip weights, 3 weight ports, and you do have the adjustable hosel, and so you can go up and down, right, with both your loft and your lie angle. And again, early leader in the clubhouse for best looking fairway wood. I know that's
It's clean.
it's clean. It's clean. It's clean. It looks
and they've
good.
done the shaping of Cobra fairway woods has always been really good. Again, for my eye, I understand this is subjective, but you get some where, for example, some of the Nike stuff and PXG like Gen 5 stuff where it's just like really, really rounded, like it's almost like a baseball that somebody just kind of shaved a little off the front kind of thing. And so that doesn't suit my eye necessarily, but the Cobra stuff, they shape it well, performs well. I mentioned this in the article. Like, it kind of sucks for Cobra because we know the average guy is going to try 3 on average, right? He's going to take 3 drivers into a hitting bay. We know what the market share looks like. It's almost always going to be some combination of TaylorMade, Callaway, Titleist, and Ping. So just get into the discussion for Cobra. That's a tricky proposition. And I'm telling people, just try one more. Just say, hey, let's go try a Cobra just because those idiots on NoPuttsGiven told me to, and I'm gonna see how wrong they are, and maybe walk away pleasantly surprised. Thank me later.
I did order a 7-wood, Tony. So here's a 7-wood. In the X. So again, similar naming conventions. Again, you guys can go to the articles, check them out for all the nitty-gritty details and stuff. But I went with the X in the 7-wood for 2 reasons. Number one, it reminded me of the blue colorway on the bottom, which is kind of fun, right? Something that Cobra did.
Fun. I'll call it fun.
It is fun. It is fun.
It's informative.
It's informative, particularly if whether you know about it or not, you've probably been influenced by it in the shaft space in the industry. The low launch, low spin version of a shaft is typically black, white, or like a silver, like something like that, right? If it's mid launch, mid spin,
something in the Oakland Las Vegas Raider family, like it's going to be.
Yes, low launch, low spin Raiders, mid launch, mid spin Detroit Lions.
Not the Cowboys anymore.
Not the Cowboys, not America's team. No, that one would be a driver, club that really, really performs when it doesn't matter, and then as soon as the money shot's on the line, it vomits all over itself. That's what that shaft would be. Anyway, blue, mid-launch, mid-spin. That's the X head. And then, for them, the max is the red. You see a little red
high launch.
The numbers and stuff. Higher launch, higher spin, which, right, red shafts within a given family tend to often be red, denoting higher launch, higher spin. So there you go. But yes, I think that's the challenge. I pointed this out in the article too as well. It's like the challenge for Cobra is, we'll talk maybe more little market dynamics in the after show briefly, but getting
whale sounds coming out of my house here. I don't know what's going on.
Whale sounds?
Wife and kid are home.
Like belugas? Anyway, we'll talk more about that in the after show. Some of the market.
I know what it is. Somebody's using the tonal. It's like the.
Oh.
Anyway, so good. Somebody's getting healthy. Good. All right. Love it.
All right. PXG.
Shout out to Tonal. Free plug. Love the Tonal.
Tonal. PXG.
Get back on it. Yeah.
Black Ops. PXG. The PXG. Black Ops.
What's the P stand for? Anyway.
I don't know. Shh. Black Ops. It's covert. You don't tell people about black operations. They're behind the scenes. They're undeclared. You don't shout and scream.
Doesn't make sense. Anyway.
About black ops. Shh. But anyway, what do we need to know about black opportunities or black operations?
No irons so far this year. So
okay, no irons. This is specific. This is all metalwood stuff.
Yeah, so this would be about the time when we would expect to see plus or minus a month, right? Gen 7. But instead we have Black Ops. Changing the naming convention, at least with the metalwoods. I would assume the irons will stay on the Gen convention when the time comes. We'll see. So interesting stuff. 2 models. We have a standard Black Ops and a Black Ops Tour. We're not doing 0311 XF or P's or T's or any of the other numbers or letters we've
Or
used
just
along the way.
nothings. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the talking point of the standard Black Ops is 10K. Driver number 3 for the year across that 10,000 combined total MOI threshold. We know what that means. Big footprint. Plenty of forgiveness, obviously. 10K worth. But I will say it's to me intriguing for PXG because I wouldn't say all of them, but maybe the last iteration or two of the XF, they've done a reasonably good job of keeping spin down. You know, not saying it's low spin, but it wasn't super high spin either. Mid spin
Right.
solidly at worst.
Right.
And doing that in a 10,000K package, if that holds up, is certainly intriguing. And then the tour model, you know what you get there, right? That kind of that flatter, more penetrating trajectory, lower MOI, and that's a driver where I thought PXG, who I mean, we remember how spinny kind of the first generation or two was, but started getting into that tour space, and they showed some promise with a couple of prototypes. We're like, well, you know, they might be inching towards something, and then just kind of quietly went away and started doing like mass market. X became a mass market product, and then you know, not even gonna call it the X anymore, kind of thing. And now we're back in the tour space, and it's interesting. Be curious to see what these can do. 3-weight systems again, as PXG has traditionally done, so giving you option to configure it any way you need to. More forgiveness, more speed up front. Slice bias or anti-slice bias if you need it. So yeah, intriguing. We'll see. $599 retail price. I'm not sure if I'm being honest, if I would buy a new PXG driver right now with the historic pricing.
One, isn't the other one like $50 more, like
650? Yeah. So and again, knowing their kind of history of discounting, I mean, I just feel like if you wait by 4th of July, these are probably going to be, you'll probably catch a sale. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it. Neither you nor I have been hit or 50, so don't know. Nothing to share there, but we'll have, you know, potentially more later on. Wilson, we mentioned. I said, just take it's hard to make a bad looking muscle back. I get that. It's clean, it's simple. But I'll say this for the CB as well. The cavity of it, and you kind of see what they're doing with the lines on it. It's very Japanese, dare I say. It's very reminiscent of some other designs. And again, everybody borrows inspiration from everybody else. So I'm not at all saying, oh my gosh, these look like a blank. That's, you know, no. What I'm talking about is paying attention.
It's a cavity with an angle in it, you know, like it's not proprietary.
Right.
Come on.
Right. But it would not take you long to look through a number of, I would say, pretty pleasing aesthetically, at least, designs in that kind of forged cavity back space from Mizuno, Miura, 7.
You know, if you look, and I catch just a hint. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different category, but some of these lines, right? Maybe a hint of like where the milling is, I guess, like just a hint of like even Titleist concept. But again, you know, none of these things are proprietary. Like,
no,
if you start getting into things like you can't have angles, you can't mill, you can't. Like, come on, guys. There's only so many ways to do it.
When is the last time that you are even stopped to notice a Wilson iron? You know, and they've made good irons, and I think my biggest hope for this line is that it's kind of a harbinger of things to come for Wilson, where I think, yes, there's some things that they've done incredibly well in the past, but that's exactly where they are.
Do you know they won like 100 majors 200 years ago? I mean, that's kind of the story.
Like Gutta Perchas and what? Yeah. So
we'll see. We'll see kind of, but we are catching wind, like some vibes of like, hey, let's talk about the present and maybe less.
And how, and what can we do? And like I said, if this iron design is anything that we should read into of where they may be headed in this particular space, then, you know, I'm signing up to that email list. Like, I'm subscribing. I'm going to watch. I want to see where they head to. This is intriguing.
Big thumbs up on this one. I
Yep,
love this.
super
Looks good.
intriguing. There, just dropped even roll Neo Classic putters, Roman Empire kind of stuff that our very own Dave Wolf, sorry, which he worked in a lot of things. Very entertaining article. If you haven't,
that was
if you haven't
definitely
taken a
from
look at it,
John Barba school of obscure references.
and TikTok references and things. He does a great job with it.
He
But
brought it on this one for sure. Yeah.
but basically the purpose here, right, is let's get a couple models, historically with even roll to the number 2 and number 5 that have sold exceptionally well across the board, across the world. South Korea, I know for sure, love the black, the murdered out type of look. Those sell exceptionally well. So they said, hey, what if we did this? What if we took a couple of the most popular hosels, we took away some of the modular components to it, made them in a couple colors, and now that's going to be kind of our classic line, but we're not going to compromise on the key technology, which is
face insert and the grooves now. Well, the grooves now with a face insert, I guess is the right way to say that, right? So
there you go.
even roll grooves have long been the story. The idea of correcting, being able to make a slight correction for those kind of open face or off the toe hits to kind of just bring your starting line a little closer to where you want it to be, more consistent result because of it. So they haven't changed that. New insert, kind of intriguing, right? I think is this the first time we've seen an insert from
Yeah, first time we've really seen a full-on insert from them, and I was out in California a couple of weeks, or this was part of our 18 weeks in a row of travel in the fall and the winter, and I was asking Garen Wright, owner, founder, lead designer, CEO, whatever, of even kind of about these a little bit, and he said, that's something that they've worked really hard on, is to try and make sure that it's getting a similar sound and feel. They've tried to dial that in over some generations. I'd say 2 generations ago, they were too soft. And so people felt at times like they lacked distance control or kind of lacked feedback. And so you saw them try to make it a little bit more of a firmer insert, but obviously, a firmer sense at impact. But I think that's always the challenge with any type of an insert, is not just the feel, but think about different head shapes and designs. Like if you have 100, if it's a milled putter and it's 350 grams and it's an answer style putter, all of those grams, all that weight are within, a very narrow band, right? But what about some of the larger designs, like a 5 and some of these other ones where you really have to think about aluminum and the acoustics? And so I don't know. We'll see. I think we'll ultimately see kind of how they do in putting stuff, but
Well, I don't think it's the worst if they don't feel identical. That's kind of, and I mean, I guess, right, if you're going to put it in everything, maybe it needs to, but if you talk about the Odyssey line, for example, like one of the, I don't want to say the beauty, but one of the cool things about Odyssey over the years is, and they haven't been like every release you get everything, but they kind of vary up the inserts. And so, like, hey, if you like the white hot feel, we can give you that. If you like a different feel, if you like the more of the true stainless, well, hey, we've got a milled fit, So it's having that little bit of everything. So even if you try it and you go, oh, this doesn't feel like an even roll or what I'm used to.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the worst thing. I don't know. I haven't hit these, haven't rolled them. I don't know what they feel like, but one of these things, like, variety in putter feel is not a bad thing. Period.
Not a bad thing. No, not at all. Like I said, we're gonna. I mean, you guys can go to the website and check out some of these releases. We're gonna talk a couple of ball things here specifically, but Cleveland Halo XL irons, Cleveland Zipcore XL irons, Cleveland CBX 4 zip groove wedges.
It's weird and not weird to me, right? So Cleveland has become the game improvement line of the Srixon, Cleveland, Zexio, Dunlop, etc., Sumitomo Rubber Industries golf division. It's weird, right? The wedges, I guess you've got the Cleveland name, has some history to it. So other than wedges, everything in the Cleveland line has slanted towards game improvement. And I look at these Halo XL and I kind of smile a little bit
Why?
because
What
like
makes? Because you play
because
350s.
if you and I hit a club like a Halo XL, say like Cobra T Rail, another one,
Oh,
kind of the
yeah.
big hollow body mini
Mm-hmm.
hybrid through a full set design of irons, they go straight up in the air. Absolute moonshots. And
Mm-hmm.
as a guy who doesn't need that, I still enjoy seeing it. It's fun. But I think,
Right.
man, if you're a guy who doesn't hit it high, if you struggle to hit it high, you used to hit it high, you lost speed, you can't hit it high anymore, and you would love
This
to
is
actually hit golf clubs that go in the air instead of these kind of flat things that roll out forever. You want to get back to hitting
mhm.
shots that look like how most of us think golf shots are supposed to look. Man, these type of designs are so good for that, and it's so much fun. And I know, like I said, if I hit moonshots and you hit moonshots, I know
Yep.
these are going to be really good for a guy who's struggling, who would love to hit a moonshot. Maybe he's not going to
Right.
hit the moon, but he's
Right.
going to hit it higher than he has in a long
He's
time
gonna
if he
get
hasn't
out of
played
the
something like
atmosphere
this.
for
It's
sure. Yeah.
it's so again, not for me, but man, I can appreciate these type of designs
Mm-hmm.
on a really significant level.
Also saw Strixon came out. So Q Star Tour and Divide golf balls. Q Star Tour has not tested well historically, so I'm not super excited
It's
about
not
that.
my
From
favorite Strix on ball. It's
It's not my
not.
favorite Strixon ball, but we'll see. Again, new year, new ball. Who knows? We'll test it and find out. The divide concept, not shocking. People are kind of divided on it,
Yeah, I'm
whether
not.
you
I'm
like
not.
it or
I'm
not. I
sure. I
don't
know
hate it.
people who do, but I'm not sure that Shrixon's intent is for you to actually go out and play 18 holes with this ball. Like it's. I
You
don't
think
want
they
to call
make
it
a
a
golf ball
training
you're
aid
not
or a
actually
practice
supposed to
ball.
use?
Well, I think when you talk about kind of the advantages and where it can help, it's kind of looking at it around the green, whether you're seeing how your putts roll with the color
Mm-hmm.
contrast or how a ball is spinning on a short wedge shot. That's the
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff where it's advantageous. I'm not sold on the course, and we haven't talked about this. It hasn't been discussed, and we haven't done any detailed testing on this to tell you what the real world implications are. But if you look at the cover of a Divide golf ball versus the standard golf ball, whether that's Q Star, whether that's Z Star, whatever it happens to
Right,
be,
or
to
XV
put
or
those
whatever
covers
star.
together,
Yeah.
it's fundamentally different. That's a different seam pattern, and so
Hmm.
Strixon typically has pretty tight seams. Generally, that lends itself to more stable or more consistent aerodynamics. So again, just speculating based on what we know here, but it's the ball is coming together differently with the divide pattern. It's not, these aren't sort of painted after the fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look, it is a different seam pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it probably has implications. But again, like it's if you think it's cool, play it. Like I said, I think
Yeah.
it's realistically probably more of a putting around the green type of educational / practice tool. But hey, if you enjoy it on the course, like
Fire
if
it
you
up.
could show me that it performs really well with the cover implication, I would love it.
Yeah.
Like I think it looks cool. So I'm a guy that if it wasn't matte, for example, if you give me like mix it up, give me something fun like a red and yellow, right? Something like that. I would play it. I'd play it
It
all
would look
day.
orange
So
in the air if you were spinning
yeah,
fast enough.
I guess right. Like that's how did I hit it hard enough to turn it orange?
Yeah, yeah. It always reminds me every time I see the ball. It reminds me being a little kid, like playing basketball. You could go get the Chicago Bulls ball, and it was the panels were different because it was black and red, black and red. So like if you hit a perfect swoosh or whatever, like you could see it spin. That was kind of cool. I had a Lakers ball, it was purple and yellow. Always thought that was cool. So I don't know. Anyway, moving on. AVX
Ooh.
Ball Lab? Is that right, Tony? Did you do a ball lab on these? Did we?
No, that's not going to be ball lab. Not
No. Okay.
yet. It takes us time. We don't just go out and buy 3 dozen as soon as they launch. You got to give it
Why
time. There's a
not?
process. There's a
Okay.
process. Got to,
So what
make
can you
sure.
tell me about it? Can you tell me anything about it?
Yeah. Well, we got a new AVX. How about that?
Okay. What
So
is the AVX? What is this thing gonna do? What's
yeah, this is.
what are the plans here for Titleist? Because it's not a we know it's not a Pro V1 Pro V1X here, but AVX is kind of this you know I don't want to call it odd because it's not odd, but it's the only ball that's kind of
it's
in the Pro V1 family of golf balls, or it's treated as though it's part of the family, but it has like a different name. So it's like the one kid in the
yeah,
family that gets a
and
different
it's
name.
and compared to kind of its competitive set, which I guess is on paper anyway, right? Lower compression urethane. So it's
Hmm.
typically when we talk about that, it's Tour Response, Chrome Soft, Q Star Tour, RX, RXS, etc.
Yep.
It tends to fly quite a bit lower than those. So kind of a yeah, and Titleist isn't telling you any differently. Like this is a soft golf ball with a penetrating trajectory, which some people love anyway. And then if you are a higher swing speed guy who would normally kind of overcompress and balloon your typical soft golf ball, AVX maybe is a better option in that respect. But that's kind of where it fits, right? Lower
Hmm.
build as low flight, low spin within
Hmm.
that the Titleist urethane offering lineup.
Yep.
But in terms of what's new, right? It's I've been saying this a lot, right? Cover to core, core to cover, whichever way you want to start. So they've made some changes to make it spin even less in the long game. So lower spin off driver, off long irons. That's going to get you more distance, tee to green, right?
Yep.
And the other big one here, I mean, I should mention. I think I'm like bound to mention the high flex casing layer. That's become like we talk
Probably.
about that
That's
quite a bit. I
probably.
think.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, that started with years ago with Left Dash, and it's kind of a design that's worked its way into I think everything in the Titleist urethane lineup now,
Yeah.
and
I
we're
don't.
starting to hear like other companies, other manufacturers talk about not high flex casing layer because
Like
that's
casing
Titleist
layers,
phrasing.
like have
Yeah,
it.
but
Yeah.
that kind of that whether you want to call it a mantle, uh, mid layer, whatever you want to call it, right? Kind of doing
Hmm.
things at that layer to tune performance. So that's kind of worked its way into AVX, and then softer feel by way of a thicker cover. So kind of interesting. They actually bumped compression up, overall ball compression up just a little bit, but the cover is softer. So around the green, off the putter, where you probably tend to notice feel a little bit more, it
Hmm.
should feel a little bit softer. So
Hmm. That was my first. Is and we had some of the prototypes or the kind of test balls, and I hit it.
do they come in white
Yep.
boxes?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. I hit it, right away just against a couple other balls in the title sign and against the previous version of AVX, and just like hitting little wet shots into little simulator in my basement, and that was my first thought was like, oh, on partial shots this felt slightly softer. Like that was the first thing that was noticeable to me. So I think if that was, let's say you are an AVX player and you felt that was an area that was maybe lacking in the previous version, um, I wouldn't be at all surprised if this time around you go, yeah, that is softer in that space. But I think this is going to be a very interesting ball war category. I think that's where I'm really interested to see where this all goes. Where you kind of termed it the not necessarily flagship urethane space where we're seeing the top, but
One level down, right? Yeah.
this is like again back in the day when college football you had Division 1 and then you had 1 AA and you had like Alcorn State. This is that like Division 1 AA, just that slight step. I Because there's a lot of people that want to be in there, and these balls also tend to be slightly one step less expensive than those top flagship ones
And
would be
this
what
will
they
be. I
name.
mean, that's the other thing. This to me is almost odd, because you've got
Yep.
Pro V1, Pro V1X, Left Dash, 54.99, 54.99,
Mm-hmm.
54.99,
Mm-hmm.
AVX.
Mm-hmm.
What you go into the market today and buy,
Yep.
54.99. New
Yep.
AVX,
Yep.
49.99.
Nope. So
So
five
we're
bucks.
dropping prices $5. To me, it's weird, but I think in talking to Titleist, I'm like, why are you doing this? And it really is. It's almost, I would say, to an extent, bowing to market perception, where and you can almost blame Titleist to an extent for this, where maybe the consumer, the golfing market, whatever you want to call it, doesn't see AVX as being on the same level as Pro V1. And I'm not in the discussions at Titleist, obviously, but I've always felt like this ball probably could have been named Pro V1S, S for soft, obviously, but it went in a different direction. But it it's made like a Pro V1, right? 3-layer ball, cast
Same plant,
urethane
same
cover,
facility, same, yeah, right,
manufactured
yeah.
at Ball Plant 3 alongside Pro V1, Pro V1X left dash to the same standard. So
Mm-hmm.
in every reasonable sense, it is just like a Pro V1. It's just built to a different performance spec. And that's, again, I'm
Right.
not saying with performance, I very rarely talk about good or bad. It's really just different in a golf ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this has a quantifiably different performance spec than anything else, and that's by design, right? You can
Sure.
start with this and go, hey, what if we put a little more spin in it, made it spin more around the green, made it fly a little higher? Well,
Yep.
again, you just made a Pro V1. What's the point? So,
Mm-hmm.
this needs to kind of exist in its own little spot in the lineup and be different. But
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the things that matter from a quality standpoint, and to an extent performance, again, talking about that cast urethane cover, 3-piece construction, it's every bit of Pro V1 in that respect. And for whatever reason, Titleist has decided that you can buy it for less money. So hey, have at it. Good for golfers who love AVX, I guess.
I get it. I get it. Last one, and then we're going to finish up with maybe this is going to be a much smaller after show, if you will, kind of just 5, 6, 7 minutes on some market dynamic questions that I want to ask you, Tony. But that being said, Kasig, our dear friends.
Yeah, Kasig, Kirkland signature Performance Plus
What do I need
V3
to know? What do I
version
need to
3.
know?
Ball Lab coming Friday.
Teaser.
Um,
Teaser.
I think
Give me a teaser.
it's what you should expect for the money.
What you should expect for the money. Could
And I
read that
could,
a couple.
and we'll when you read it, we're trying to present both sides of it.
Sure.
There's some there are different ways to be a bad golf ball, and some ways are better than others.
I. Whew.
I guess I would phrase it right. Have you play golf? You know what it's like. There are good double bogeys and bad double bogeys.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
they're
This
right.
is
Yeah,
good
yes,
double bogey.
yep. This is good. All right, noted. And with that, if you want to stick around, like I said, after show, we're going to talk a little bit more on the market dynamics that are present with some of these things. And I want to pick Tony's brain on a couple of things. If you don't want to know about that, we'll see you next. Where are we next week? PGA show in Orlando, and that's how I always get Tony to leave. We'll be right back.
Oh, I almost caught a little bit of my zebra rug and almost took a tumble. All right,
5 to 7 good minutes here, Tony. Getting some questions around, and and we're talking to companies. You have all these releases. I mean, like
we got
said,
30K worth of drivers between three brands alone. So
we have
yeah,
30,000 points of forgiveness. But every year, right, we get this, and it's a little bit of a I guess the question is, how much of it is kind of reshuffling, deck chairs on the Titanic, where we're going to end up where we currently are because markets, by and large, don't shift majorly over a single year. However, there's nothing saying they have to stay the same. So, what in your mind, let's start with metalwoods. So, what would constitute a big change in the marketplace? When we look at, again, we've talked how kind of the big 4.5, depending on if you want to include Cobra in the category, whatever, 85 to 90% of the market, right?
Yeah, and I think
so.
And I think even deeper perspective, when you look at that kind of straight ranking, right? Who's the number one driver in golf based on, whatever metric somebody wants to pull. It's typically the big two, right? It's Callaway and it's TaylorMade fighting for that, especially when we talk about retail sales, right? Dollars,
Right.
retail dollars. It's typically Callaway and TaylorMade. Titleist rolling into year 2. So if you want to look at I guess kind of the tail end of that equation first, the big question is, does Cobra have enough with dark speed where they can leapfrog Titleist into probably the 4 spot this year? I think, realistically, that's Cobra's target. And it used to be Cobra used to outsell Titleist in the second year of a Titleist run. I think that has probably changed with T Series, TSI, TSR especially. So it's become, I think that's hurt Cobra a little bit. But if they can leapfrog Cobra, I think that's one thing to look at. And then
Mm-hmm.
on the top end is, you got three really good stories, right? AI Smoke, which again you and I love.
Mm-hmm.
QI10. I mean, TaylorMade's gonna make a good driver. Period. Like it's good. I'm shocked. No.
That's weird.
So it
Yeah.
really becomes like, hey, can Ping off the strength of Max 10K, which we don't have loads and loads of data. A lot of this is anecdotal and kind of early most wanted testing. That seems to be the one of the 10Ks, really for us two at this point because we
Yep.
weren't able to get the PXGs. But if Ping can kind of leapfrog and move into that one spot, it's not unheard of, right?
No,
The
not
original,
unheard of.
I think
I think.
G30 they did it back in the day. So if Ping gets hot, that could be disruptive. So that's kind of what I'm eyeballing. But I think, boy,
Mhm.
I mean, everybody's so strong right now. It's tough to see much of a major shift.
I'd see strong to very strong, uh, like my stock portfolio. But yeah, I think the dynamic that you point out there that I wanted to talk about a little bit is because stuff doesn't change every year, but companies can't release necessarily product every year. Some are 18 months, some are 24 months, some, again, you feel more in that 12-month cadence. But in that top 4 or 5 spot, like you said, Callaway's new story. TaylorMade's new story. Ping is effectively second year, same story with a twist with the 10K. So that's a little bit different. Titleist with TRS. This is the second piece
TR
of that.
TSR, or we
TSR,
rename
TRS, yeah, whatever. With
teaser.
teaser with their current generation of metalwoods, but
TSR.
they will replace those at some point. But that's not new. So, like you said, does Cobra have enough momentum to kind of overtake that? But we're seeing that on the golf ball side as well, right? This is the back half for Titleist in terms of Pro V1, Pro VX, Pro V1X, their flagship. But it is a new year for all of the competitors in that
Yeah,
direct
I mean,
space. With, again, I mean, this is where I think the ball stuff gets interesting because, you know, everybody else in that space in the top 3 or 4 that is not Titleist is releasing a new flagship tour urethane ball this year. So are we going to see any meaningful changes in that? Like, does Callaway have enough to steal a couple more points from Titleist?
it's the ball space is fascinating because I think the numbers will shift. It's just a question of how they shift. And so if you look at a good bit of the market, and I would say pre Chrome Soft,
Okay.
Titleist was kind of on its own in an island on an island to an extent, and sort of like they were going to do what they did, and they were going to get their massive chunk, and nothing was
Mm-hmm.
going to interfere with that. Pre Chrome Soft, it was sort of like Callaway, TaylorMade, Bridgestone, and to a lesser extent Strixon. These guys would get new balls, and then those four kind of steal points from each other. It
Right.
might have been a nibble here or there, but nobody's able to really take a sizable chunk out of Titleist at all. And then Chrome Soft hit, and I don't want to say that Chrome Soft took a massive chunk out of Titleist because they're still, I mean, 50 plus give or take of the market. But what happened there? Callaway took a little bit more out of Titleist and quite a bit out of everybody else. And so
Right.
that's kind of, they got to that clear two position by stealing a lot from the little guys. And so the question always is, okay, like these guys are probably going to take a little bit from each other as they go. Curiosity, right? Like I may be a TP5 guy, but
Sure.
I'm really curious about the Chrome Tour, for example. Or hey, new
Mm-hmm.
Bridgestone ball. What are those markings we've seen on Twitter on those? I got to try that. And so it's,
Mm-hmm.
who am I taking share from, and is it
That.
am I going to keep it, or am I going to be like, yeah, okay, I tried it, and now I'm going to go back to whatever I was playing a Pro V1, for example, where I've been playing it for however many years, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
history with it. Every great shot I've ever hit has a was in Pro V1 at the beginning and end of it, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the dynamic is how
Where does
much,
it come
yeah,
from?
where does it come from? Because I think Callaway has its most compelling golf ball since Chromesoft, and frankly, Chromesoft was only compelling as a story, not really as a performance
Not on the
product.
performance side, right?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think the distinction here is again, like we know, I've talked about this quite a bit. Chromesoft, what is now Chrome Tour X, what was Chromesoft X, really, really underappreciated by the market. Really good golf ball,
Mm-hmm.
sub 2% market share. Think about that,
Right.
right? Like this is Callaway's top performing tour ball up
Right.
until this point in time, less than 2% market share.
Mm-hmm.
That's not challenging anything Titleist is doing. It's
Right.
just not. And yeah, Chromesoft again, higher share, but not a true tour level performer. And so it's that Chrome Tour now is
Yeah.
where that is set up to go head to head with Pro V1 in a year when Titleist doesn't have an ability to play defense, and by defense I mean a new Pro V1 that's going to
Right. Yeah,
raise
or to punch
curiosity at the
back.
same
Right.
level, right? This is you're a
Right.
year in, you kind of know what it is. There'll be more curiosity around
Mm-hmm.
Chrome Tour, and I think there'll be. Yeah, I'm not telling you like, hey, watch the first 2 months of the season. Callaway's going to have the best selling ball. That's not going to happen, not by a long shot. But there's going to be a lot of curiosity around Chrome Tour as well out of the gate. The marketing is going to
Mm-hmm.
be heavy. We're already seeing some of that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's for me the one battle to look at is what is the conversion rate, the keep rate, right? How many guys try Chrome Tour against Pro V1 and say, I like this better. I'm gonna buy another 5 dozen.
Yeah, because and like you said, just a couple quick thoughts on the market dynamic piece. To me, the reason the ball stuff is so interesting is one, it's evolving and changing because it's a consumable, right? Like people aren't buying 4, 5, 12 drivers a year. So you just have, you have millions of dozens of golf balls that are being purchased every year. So there's a lot of volume going on there. And then it's as you mentioned in kind of that pecking order. If I'm in two spot, well, it's very obvious probably where I'm going to try to who's hide, right? I'm going to try to take a bite out of, right?
Yeah,
But
like
if you're
I'm
in
number two, I'm gonna really go hard after number three.
yes, but if I'm in 3, 4, if I'm maybe TaylorMade, Strixon, Bridgestone, etc., if I'm trying to gain any meaningful share, you know, kind of see people on a ladder. Like you said, is Callaway, with one hand, are they kind of slapping the people behind them, but really it's full speed ahead? I mean, that's kind of the sense. So how does, do we see that arrangement, changing at all? And then, like you said, what is the story? How does that maybe develop? Because next year, again, if past is prologue and history does, let's just say, we don't know anything, but let's just say next year would be slated to be a new year for Pro V1, Pro V1X, or whatever. But the back half of the 24 models that we're seeing now, I think what Titleist tells us about that ball, if it does come out in a year, will have an awful lot to do. Will tell us about these dynamics that we're kind of pontificating on now to see, okay, here's kind of what they think about it. Because they are the clear market leader. They are the number one, regardless of metric. They are the bona fide leader in that category.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out, right? Callaway's strongest revenue generate, at least in terms of maybe not revenue, but revenue is pretty close with Chrome Soft, but volume is super soft by plenty.
Right.
So Callaway's really strong at the lower end of the market for sure.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, right? Can Chrome Tour and a new Chrome Tour X can that gain interest from serious golfers, from I don't want to say tour level guys, but guys who play a true tour level ball? Are they going to be interested in the new Callaway balls? And the other ripple here is right,
Mm-hmm.
it's a new year for TaylorMade too, and so you're going to have TP5,
Yes.
TP5X, both of which at retail are significantly stronger than Chrome Soft X has been historically.
Mm-hmm.
Again, in the market retail, so what's going to be the relationship there? So I mean, honestly, before Chrome Tour as a new offering in the model, before it can even look at a Pro V1 seriously, it's gotta hop over those TaylorMade balls.
Absolutely
Again,
does.
within that demographic. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think from what I've seen so far, the campaign, the marketing on Chrome Tour has been good so far. So if they can stack a couple tour wins with it, something like that, gain some momentum, especially ahead of retail, would be nice. But I
Couldn't agree more.
expect that I expect a lot of guys are going to buy a dozen to check it out.
Sure, intrigue. I get it.
Yeah, so
But
they're
that's why
going to
that.
sell a lot of dozens early,
Yeah.
and we've talked about this, and it's true for any challenger golf ball. It's easy to sell the first dozen because again, the Barry White's
Sell one on
$55.
intrigue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
sell one
curious.
on
I'll spend
intrigue.
$50. It's whether I spend 55 again and again and
Yep.
again, or if I decide that I'm happier spending my money with Titleist as I have for as long as I can remember. Right. So
Intrigue gets you in the door. Performance gets you back. So we'll see how that goes. We'll stay on top of this one. We'll stay tuned. Next week we are in Orlando, so catch all of our social stuff. There's going to be tons, man. It's Orlando. It's the PGA show. There's going to be all sorts of things. So if there are questions, things that you'd like to know, please let us know. GolfSpy T, GolfSpy C for No Putts Given. We out.